Of course. Well, the first, let's say the largest actually funeral procession after the Islamic Revolution, the first one was for the founder of the Islamic Republic, Imam Khamenei, which was a huge one, which was of course a historical one, and a historic one. And after that, we had the funeral procession for the martyred IRGC commander who was assassinated by a U.S. attack, Haj Qasem Soleimani. And of course, that was a very, very huge and large one and unprecedented at that time. And of course, after that, we had the funeral procession for the martyred president of Iran, who lost his life in a helicopter crash, Mr. Ebrahim Raisi. That funeral procession was also a major one and a very large one. But what we witness actually right now and in these days is that, of course, the length of the funeral procession is very important, that it is almost a week that we are witnessing that the funeral processions are going on, and of course in different cities across Iran. In Tehran, 3 days, one with the attendance and the participation of the officials from across the world, dignitaries, to pay their tribute to the martyred leader. And of course, that was a sign of how Iran has managed to basically boost its ties with the regional countries, with the world powers, including China, Russia, that they also had sent delegations to pay their tribute to the martyred leader. And of course, 2 days of public farewell ceremonies that were held in the Tehran's Grand Musalla, with the participation of hundreds of thousands of people, not only from Iran but across the world. And that was also very something unprecedented at its time. And of course, after that, we had the main funeral procession in the capital Tehran, with millions of people attending from across the world. And that was, of course, some estimate that more than 12 million people, if not more, were attending that funeral ceremony and procession. And of course, what we witnessed in the Iraqi cities, holy cities of Najaf and Karbala, was also something unprecedented. How the Iraqi people, when at the time that the plane carrying the body of the martyred leader actually arrived in the airport of Najaf, how people just received the body, how they were welcoming the Iranian delegation, and how they were carrying the body on their hands, and that even the population, I mean the actually crowd, let's say, of the people in the airport was something very special. And after that, inside the holy city of Najaf, and of course inside the holy shrine of Imam Ali, the first Imam of Shia Muslims, with the funeral prayer also being held in that city. I also have to mention Qom. Before the body of the martyred leader arrived in Iraq, it also had actually a funeral procession in the holy city of Qom in Iran. And of course, that was also a very major and large one. And I also know that even some people who had the chance to participate in the funeral procession in Tehran didn't want to miss the chance to participate in the funeral procession in Qom. So they drive 2 hours to get to the holy city of Qom to again participate in the funeral procession, or to just at least see the casket or the coffin of the remains of the martyred leader. And of course, after that, we know that the bodies were in the holy city of Karbala. And of course, we know that before reaching the holy shrine of Imam Hussein, the scheduled, let's say, actually plans were postponed because of the massive crowd that had gathered in Karbala to receive the body of the martyred leader, and how they were paying the tribute, Iraqi people in their masses. And of course it led to the postpone of the schedule of the funeral procession. And of course now today in the holy city of Mashhad, in north eastern city of Mashhad, near the holy shrine of Imam Reza, we see that how even in that city, millions of people are also gathering there to pay their tribute to the martyred leader. So some people, analysts, call it the largest funeral procession in modern history, and I think it is true. We haven't seen such thing before, and even some analysts will compare it to other funeral processions that were held for other world leaders, including Pope, or the funeral procession for the late Queen of UK, and how this is something unprecedented in modern history. And of course it has a very big sign, and it is that how great this man was, and how his legacy, the legacy that he has basically left behind, how it is very important for the people, not only inside the country but also outside, and of course across the world. And how this Iraqi people, how actually they receive the body, and how they pay the tribute in their masses. And some Iranian people, it is interesting also to mention that they were saying that during the 8 years of imposed war, the imposed war that actually happened during the Ba'ath regime of Saddam Hussein in Iraq, they attempted to weaken the country, or to collapse the establishment, to collapse the country. But what we witnessed yesterday was people carrying and waving the flag of the Islamic Republic. So this is basically showing the reality that how people respect and the reputation that the Islamic Republic of Iran and the Iranian nation has gained under the leadership of the martyred leader Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, and how he basically made Iranian people great and the Iranian nation powerful. That we see that how in the Iraqi holy cities of Najaf and Karbala, hundreds of thousands of people gather to pay their tribute to the martyred leader, of course as the leader of the Islamic Republic, and of course as a leader of the Shia Muslims all around the world, and all the freedom seekers that respect the human values. And how he, actually managed to give Iranian nation this reputation, actually to receive this respect and raise the flag of the Islamic Republic of Iran so proudly, to just show their solidarity with the Iranian nation. And we know that, of course, under his leadership, how Iran managed to actually boost his ties with its neighboring countries, with important countries all around the world, because we know that what he believed in was, the world is not limited in just one or two countries, or just several countries, namely United States and its European allies. What he believed was, the country has to also rely and to actually rely on other resources and other countries that can actually Iran has could have ties with those countries. And of course, how Iran could manage to join the BRICS group and the Shanghai Cooperation under his leadership, and how Iran pursued the good neighborliness policy to boost its ties with its neighboring countries. And of course, the respect that the Iraqis had for the martyr leader is because of his attempts to, how Iran actually helped the Iraqis to face Daesh, to fight with Daesh, and all those things that happened in Iraq, in Syria, and facing Daesh, and how they, are thankful of the martyred leader. And this is the message that they're sending.
Let's go back to Mashhad Saleh, joining us from the Lebanese capital, Beirut. Mr. Saleh, please talk to us more about Ayatollah Khamenei's support for the resistance movements, the resistance axis in the region, and the impact that that support had in the subsequent regional developments.
Well, yesterday, the Secretary General, Sheikh Naim Qasim, said something not new, but we know it, but it's new for many people. That he said, Imam Khamenei, this great martyr, this great leader, told him, and of course told before him, the martyr of the Ummah, Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, that ask whatever you want in order to fortify, in order to force to make the force to combat, to confront the Zionists in the battlefield as a resistance in South Lebanon. Ask whatever you want. We won't be preventing anything from making you powerful and able to confront this occupation. And today, I would say that Imam Khamenei, the great martyr and the great leader and master, I would say, that he excluded all these rulers and regimes from the region and make this attraction or attractivity to the peoples that Iran and this leader can say something about the issues of the region. And everybody now knows that Iran is the only reference, is the only authority, is the only, government and leader that would help without any price, without orders, without engagements, without anything that might curb or might cripple the people or these movements, even the Hamas and Jihad and all these people. The most important thing is that they were tolerant and they were appeasing these movements and give them whatever they want in order to find solution or to make kind of power to balance, to have this balance with the Israelis and with the Americans. And that could, I would say that without Iran and without this leader and his ideas and his values and culture that would not have allowed the resistance and the access of resistance to reach such power. That's true that the enemies were so barbarians and so destroying the properties and the houses and everything. But I would say the leader, the martyr, great Khamenei, Imam Khamenei, implanted the idea that we can fight and we can challenge the occupation, and this spirit and this psychology decimated in the region, in Iraq, in Lebanon, in Palestine. That's why I think Palestine is still there. Nobody can deny the Palestinian right to go back to Palestine, or to the Israelis to feel that they have existential threat, as they say. And during the life of the great martyr Qasim Soleimani, also Haj Qasim Soleimani, who was martyred in Iraq and by the Americans. That's why they felt, and Trump confessed and said it overtly. He said that he was great and dangerous, and others of the Marines and the American army said, well, Haj Qasim Soleimani was engineering, was making this architecture of the region. That's why they were afraid of him. This colonel, a great leader, military leader, and public figure, and social leader. He did a great job by the coordination with the leader. So the leader gave everything to these people in order to create a new resistential, I would say, to exist and to continue its march towards freedom and liberation. And I guess now most of the people in Yemen, in Lebanon, in Palestine, and also in Iraq and other places, even in Syria, I would say we are coming back. We are coming back stronger with this martyrdom. We are coming back with a great awareness and collective consciousness in order to change. And this change has started in Iran, how this revolution is going as it's in the beginning, it's outset, its way of leading the peoples of the region, this revolution, leading the peoples of the region in order to regain its power and force the American bases and the great base, the Israel. Now they feel, well, we have to concentrate here. I would say, I would tell our audiences that they should look what's happening inside this entity, this Zionist entity. A great feeling of fear and scare about concerning the resistance in Lebanon and in Palestine, in spite of their empowerment of the West to this entity. This great leader really, the word we can influence the minds and the psychology of the people that transferred the situation from being not only emulating the West and making their way and listen to the Americans, to listening to this leader and the leaders around in Yemen, Sayyid al-Houthi, and in Lebanon, Sayyid Nasrallah, and in Sayyid Nasrallah, may peace be upon his soul as well. So they made these changes. The leader, the teachings, and the way of thinking and the behavior. So civilizations can make new entities in the region in order to face the oppressors. And the Americans, they feel that, and many commentators from the United States, they say that America was defeated. Iran defeated the United States, and that's great change in the ideas about the way. Now we see in Hormuz, we see these people in the streets. They are not afraid of the United States. That's the most important thing. We exceeded the stage of fear and problem with this bullying power of the United States and these criminals inside Palestine, occupying Palestine. So the axis of the resistance is part of these accomplishments of the leader, and the most and admiring, I guess, accomplishment was how the leader changed the souls and the spirits of the people and the culture as well. The cultural changes, don't come easily, and he could do these changes in the minds and in the hearts of the people, and their language of challenge to the Americans and to the Israelis. It's there in the states of Tehran, in Beirut, in Gaza, and in Yemen, and in Iraq, 2 million or 3 million, and some in Karbala and Najaf. This is a great situation. This is a great change as well. And the Americans, they have tried their best, and the Israelis, in order to make this split and this strife between the Arabs and the Iranians, between the sects and between the nationalities and between the borders, and they have done a lot. But the strength and the powerful culture of this great leader and of this great culture and revolution could influence in a situation, in a case that the Americans could do nothing of this relation. And they tried all kinds of seditions, all kinds of problems between the peoples, and they have distorted Islam and the sects, and here and there by the name of the Shia, by the name of the Sunnah. But actually, Iran did a great big difference between the situation before the revolution and after the revolution. Look, when under Saddam imposed war against Iran, they have tried Qadisiyya and they tried Persians and Arabs. All that went, all that evaporated, all that finished. And now we are talking about Palestine, about Lebanon, about Israeli occupation and the American bases in the Gulf. You see that? You see that? How situation changed into in the favor of the axis of the resistance.
Right.
And, in Yemen, don't you see what's happening in Sana'a and the area there, Ansarullah, what they are doing, and the Yemeni army. So you are talking about a new situation and new phase of revolution in the region.
Mr. Saleh, along the lines of what you were just explaining, is that why Martyr Ayatollah Khamenei repeatedly emphasized on the concept of Muslim unity?
Absolutely, that's the core issue of his endeavors in order to call for all these intellectuals and elites and scholars in the Muslim, in the Sunni environment, and of course he was ready to do all these collaborations and make all the coordination and try to make solutions for even religious issues and political issues. And he called for the central issue of the Muslim world, Palestine, Quds, Al-Quds, the sacred place. So, and he convinced many, and now we have in Lebanon and in the region that many Sunni and Shia scholars, they meet, jurists, they meet and talk about Palestine. Yesterday, one of the sheikhs from the Muslim community in Saida and Beirut talked about this situation. These people who are trying to say, well, the wilaya and faqih and this, and he said these people in the Sunni or in the Shia even, or in the area, they don't understand what does it mean wilayat al-faqih. And he said, well, look at this imam, this greater imam, who is challenging the greatest power on earth, the United States and the Zionists, and he cared about Palestine. And that's why we should follow his teachings and follow his discourse in order to make the region anew as Muslims, as humans, as oppressed, and all these good things for humanity. Killing each other or having this split or fighting each other in all borders for the sake of the Americans and the Israelis, that will kill us. And this is also one of the changes Imam Khamenei, the great martyr, made it from the beginning of the revolution, when they called for the unity of the Muslims, the week of the unity and the day for Al-Quds, and all the teachings that call for the unity of Muslims and even the humans in order to face the the oppressors in this world, especially the Americans and the Western power. You see, finally, even in the war, in the attack, in the aggression, the American and the Zionists, the NATO, the peoples in Europe and some peoples in the United States even, they were against this aggression and they raised their voice. The human rights organizations and most of the United Nations organizations, they have raised their voice against this aggression. And now most of the Arabs and of course China and Russia and all these people, they talk about this aggression and unjust aggression, unlawful and unprovoked aggression against Iran. So you see, this leader made the issue, made the cause and the question about the oppressed and the oppressors and the people who have the right. And now look at the Iranian forces in Hormuz Strait. They have the right. It's their regional water, their regional in the Gulf of Hormuz, and nobody can deny their right. Well, nobody can deny the rights of the Palestinians to have their state or to return to their homeland. Nobody can deny the Lebanese question and ask for the withdrawal of the Israeli occupation in South Lebanon. So Iran could, in their persistence, in their pursuance of the issues in the region, also in addition to the issues made against Iran, and overcame them and do the situation. You see, Iran is becoming one of the superpowers in terms of its ideas, in terms of its reasons, in terms of its rights, not conditions. Many, they say the Iranian condition. No, Iran has the right to do relations with these people, the oppressed in the region. And these regimes, most of these regimes in the Arab world, they belong to the philosophy and to the strategies of the Americans and the Western powers who created these borders from 200 years, or at least from Sykes-Picot in 1916. So, and after Balfour Declaration in 1917. So we are talking about the changes, all these led by the Iranian Revolution, and especially by the martyr, the leader, Imam Khamenei. May peace be upon his soul and his heritage and his saying. So the people we have here, he left for us great literature and teachings in his books about science. Science, of course, we are talking about spiritual science and psychological science and social science and historical sciences. So he filled the library of the Muslims by words that can work in our societies, in our universities, in our schools, everywhere. The elites can benefit a lot from his mind. He was the master in all aspects that human sciences can take as something fruitful, because it's been experienced, tested in the battlefield. I would say here battlefield as a symbol for confronting, for combating the oppressors in this world. And I guess I would say that created a new path, a new pattern in how to think in order how to know, and how to embody this knowledge. And how to embody this knowledge, that means that would complete your humanity in this world in order to move to the hereafter with a great means to be in a very good relationship with others in terms of ideas, in terms of ideology and logic. The most important thing is the logic. the Americans and the Israelis, they have no right in order to intervene or to exploit or to kill in this manner in Palestine or in the Gulf or in Iran or in Lebanon or anywhere. That's also another thing that the people in all over the world, the elites can be proud of these teachings that fill the squares and the arenas in this region.
Farzan, is staying on the topic that we were discussing with Mr. Saleh, how did Ayatollah Khamenei approach sectarian differences within the Islamic world, and how is his legacy likely to continue across the Muslim world?
Of course, well, the thing is that, of course, he was, if not the only one, but at least one of those people who would champion, the unity among Muslims. And of course, even he would, address those who would try to, divide the Muslim Ummah in very harsh, tone, and, saying that time and time and again we have said that we shouldn't actually do anything that would lead to the division between the Muslim world and different, sectarians between the Muslim people. And of course, not only he championed and defended the unity among Muslims, but he also respected all the different Abrahamic actually religions, of course, and those who live inside Iran. We know that how many meetings he had with the families of the martyred Christians that were actually that had lost their lives during the 8 years of imposed war with Iraq, and how he would respect those families. He would go to their homes and of course, eat what they have, and of course, there's this meeting that he had with an Iranian Christian martyr, and the family actually had baked a cake, and he had that cake and was saying that how delicious it is. It is important to mention this because there are other actually maybe religious beliefs that would say that no, it is forbidden for the Muslims to have anything from other religions, but he didn't believe in such things. He believed in unity, he believed in respect, and of course solidarity among the Iranian nation. And when he would say Iranians, he didn't say only Muslims. He would address every single Iranian people, and he loved the Iranian nation, and he would in every single speech that he had, he would address the Iranian nation, saying that how of course he respects the Iranian nation, how he loves them, and how he believes in the power of the Iranian nation. And of course in his last speech that he had before his martyrdom, in one of his last speeches, he said that of course during that time there was this news that the U.S. regime was threatening Iran with sending vessels or warships, etc. And what he said was that, of course, this time, of course, he mentioned that this time the world war would be a regional one. And of course, he said that this time it will be the Iranian nation who would deliver a strong blow to the enemies and to anyone who attacks or harasses them. And he also said that in case of any miscalculation by the enemy, it is the awakened Iranian nation that will just thwart the enemy's plots and plans to weaken the country, or any kind of provocative plan that they have against Iran and against the Iranian nation. So all of his efforts to make the country great and powerful, and of course the unity that he would call for among Muslims, among the Iranian nation, and of course all the countries in the region. And I remember that when the genocidal war by the Israeli regime started in Gaza, he was at least what I remember, is that he was the only leader who would call on, the Muslim nations to stand up and to stand up against the atrocities of the Israeli regime, and saying that they have to sever their ties, all ties with the Israeli regime, and how he had this sympathy even for the Persian Gulf countries, that some of them unfortunately are now are helping the U.S. regime to carry out its aggression against the Iranian nation. But he had the sympathy towards them, telling them that what is true and what is not true. And of course, as a leader and as a human being who cares about human values, and he called on those countries. Unfortunately, some of them didn't listen, but I think at the end, the truth will prevail, and the message that he sent will spread all over the world.
All right, thanks a lot, Farzan. Hold that thought, though. We're going to take a short break right now. I'm going to ask Mr. Mohsen Saleh to stay with us as well. Millions are flooding the streets of Mashhad to bid farewell to martyred leader Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei on the final day of his funeral. We're going to go for a short break, but we'll be right back with our extended coverage of the funeral procession. Stick around here on Press TV, please.
رهبر شهید شده و فرمانده‌ها شهید شدن. چقدر این جنگ قشنگ مدیریت شد. 50 تا کشوری که کمک می‌دادن به این دو رژیم وحشی همه با البته تکراری نمی‌کنیم، اما پای کارش هستیم. هر کی منتقم خون آقای شهیده کنار پیکر مطهرش عهد می‌بنده. پرچمای سرخ ایران از تهران بیاد بالا، پرچمای ایران بیاد بالا، مشکل گرشته بیاد بالا. گفتی ای پسر فاطمه منتظر شمایی، بالا میخوایم یه چیز دیگه بگیم. آقایون میگن ای پسر فاطمه، خانومها میگن منتقم شمایی. حالا بذارید برعکسشو بگم، فرقی هم نمیکنه. همه خواهران من ای پسر فاطمه، آقایون منتقم شمایی. خانوم ها
Ladies and gentlemen, live images that we're getting from the holy city of Mashhad. Millions of people have flooded the streets leading to the shrine of Imam Reza, the 8th Shia Imam in Mashhad, to bid farewell to the martyred leader of the Islamic Revolution, Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, ahead of his burial in the shrine. We've been seeing the massive participation in the millions in various cities over the course of the week-long funeral processions taking place in various cities in Iran, starting from Tehran to Qom. We also saw the massive turnout and reception in the Iraqi cities of Najaf and Karbala, and today, the final resting place of martyr Ayatollah Khamenei, his hometown of Mashhad. The arrival, of course, today came after a delay that was caused by the massive turnout of mourners in Iraq. There also millions took part in the farewell ceremonies in the holy cities of Najaf and Karbala. We're keeping a close eye on all the latest developments right here on Press TV, and we will be bringing you the entire coverage of the final leg of the burial and funeral ceremonies right here on Press TV. Farzan Ashurian, Press TV's very own Farzan Ashurian, is joining us in our studio to offer us some more insight on what is taking place today. Farzan, just before the break, we were discussing the issue of Muslim unity. Nothing spells more of this unity when we see the massive turnout that took place in Iraq to bid farewell to martyr Ayatollah Khamenei. Please talk to us about that, if you may.
Of course. As you just mentioned, the unity that Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei defended, and how he made lots of effort to make that unity among the Muslim Ummah and the Muslim nations all around the world, specifically here in the region. And by his efforts to defend all the oppressed people and the oppressed people in the region, we know that how Iran was very helpful in Iran's attempts, let's say, to help the Iraqi nation to face Daesh, to fight with Daesh. At that time, that the whole region was in a very complicated situation in Iraq and Syria, how the commanders of the IRGC basically sacrificed their lives to bring back the security in the region and to fight terrorism in the region. And of course, how the martyred Ayatollah Khamenei, the martyred leader, actually loved people, loved human being, and that as a human being, how a leader can be a great one, that can guide every single human being all across the world. And of course, we know that this massive turnout by the people is not just limited to the Muslims. We know that, of course, people from different backgrounds, from different beliefs, from all walks of life, different generations are also attending in the funeral processions being held across Iran, and of course in Iraq, in 2 Iraqi cities, holy cities of Najaf and Karbala. And another important point to mention is that we are in the holy month of Muharram, which is the first month of the lunar calendar, and we know that in this month the martyrdom of the third Imam of Shia Muslims, Imam Hussein, peace be upon him, has happened, and of course a very big and great role model for everyone who wants to stand against tyranny, against oppression, against violence, against global arrogance. And of course, the martyr leader saw Imam Hussein as a very great role model and had the respect that he had for him. And of course, there's this famous quote from the martyr IRGC commander Haj Qasem Soleimani, who also respected the martyr leader so much, that we are the nation of Imam Hussein. And this clearly shows that how the martyr leader, lived like Imam Hussein, died like Imam Hussein. It is interesting to mention also that, during the farewell ceremonies that were held in Tehran's Grand Mosalla, the massive crowd of people and those scenes that we saw, and the pictures that were out and the photos that were out from that ceremony, some people would compare it and say that it is parallel to what we witness in Bain al-Haramain, which is a part of the holy shrine of Imam Hussein, peace be upon him, and of course his brother Hazrat Abbas. And they say that how even his funeral procession is very similar to what we witness as people pay their respect and tribute to Imam Hussein, peace be upon him. Of course, another point is that how he, valued the resistance and resisting in the face of atrocities, and at the end he sacrificed his life for the resistance, and of course for not capitulating, for not submitting, and how he also, like Imam Hussein, sacrificed his life for the good, for the righteous path, and for fighting against the global arrogance. And of course, not only him, but also his family. So he sacrificed his life and his family for Iran, for Islam, for the righteous path. And of course, what we witness these days is historic, and this is something unprecedented. At least me myself, as a young woman, I don't remember such thing to see anywhere in the world, such thing happening for a leader, for a world leader. And of course, we were talking about similar funeral processions here in Iran. We know that the first one was the funeral procession for the founder of the Islamic Republic, Imam Khamenei. I remember when I was younger, people would talk about how that funeral procession was unprecedented at that time. And after that, the funeral procession for martyred IRGC commander Haj Qasem Soleimani, and after that, Ibrahim Raisi, the martyred president. But this is something very different. As you know, a great leader has been martyred. He didn't die, out of sickness or out of age. He was killed by the most vicious, actually, world powers and figures in the entire world, if not in the entire history. And of course, he died because he didn't want to capitulate, he didn't want to submit, he wanted to stand up and to fight. And because during his life and the whole time, even after the Islamic Revolution and after serving as the president, after serving as the leader, he would say that I stay here, I fight, and until I die. And he did so. He actually did the exact thing that he was talking about, and how every single thing that he would say he would actually do, and because he was not a liar, and he was a very truthful and honest man and honest leader, and that's why we see this massive turnout by the Iranian people and of course people across the world, because they see him as a very honest and truthful leader that was courageous, was brave, and sacrificed his life. This is what Iranian people say. That there's this actually famous slogan by the Iranian nation saying that actually John and Fadai Rahbar, which means I want to sacrifice my life for the leader, but at the end it was the leader that sacrificed his life for the Iranian people.
Thank you, Farzana. Let's bring in activist and commentator Faiza Naqvi joining us from Manchester. Welcome to the program. Please give us your thoughts when you're seeing the massive participation and attendance of the mourners for the funeral processions. Of course, we've been seeing similar footage, similar scenes over the past week. What message does the participation of these millions of people send, in your opinion?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, and really honored to be on your show and to convey my heartiest condolences, first of all, Imam of our time, and to the whole Ummah and the nation, Iranian nation as well, as we all are mourning with them, with you all, everyone, because this is the painful times we all are going through, and this is not the pain for the people who are part of this procession, who are attending this funeral. Is for all, this is a huge loss for whole Ummah, and the people who are standing up in processions and participating in that, which are millions and millions in such a hot weather in which no one even would like to go outside their home in general or normal circumstances. They are the message they are obviously giving what Imam Khamenei, Reverend Muslim Sayyid Ali Khamenei, stood for, and he stood for the values of Karbala and Ashura and the values of Imam Khomeini Rahmatullah alayh, and the values of Islam itself, because we see in past 2 years and 2.5 years, you can say, the speeches which has come through, he often said that we live or not, Iran would stay or not, the Islam should live forever and ever, the values of Islam should live forever. So this is something which is very profound and deep. And this is what I feel, that all the people on this funeral procession, wherever they are, in all the cities, in all the places, where even who are not even in Iran but globally, who are mourning and who are doing majalis and all these sittings for his funeral, and after saying, and you can say the words of bidding farewell to him, but it's not just the farewell, it's the allegiance to Imam Khamenei, and these are the values which Imam Khamenei has stood for, and those values were not the values of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the values of Ahlul Bayt, the values of Quran, and the values of humanity, because the values he stood for were the justice, truth, independence, sovereignty, resilience, faith, and you can say loyalty to your like these values, for example. So these are the values which each human being is required to have, because these are the protection of not just the Muslims only, but also, and not just only for the you can say Quds, or for the Palestine, or for Lebanon, or for Syria, or for Iran, Iraq, and everyone, but not only, because he stood for oppress all the people who are mustazifin around globally, and he stood for them. And the issue of Palestine was issue for the Muslim Ummah, as Khomeini said, and then he took it forward as well. And I feel personally, when I look at his life and the kind of sacrifices he has faced during this whole journey, he was, when somebody from our bloodline dies in front of us is very painful, but the one who dies in the way or the mission with the similar understanding and with similar vision, with the similar thought and with the similar mindset and with the similar values is quite more deeper and more painful for the personality like Sayyid Ali Khamenei. It's just like the Ansarane Imam Hussein alayhi salam and Imam Hussein were on the same page at the time, or on the night of, like you can say, Ashura. And when Imam Hussein said, "You can leave. They are just bloodthirsty. They just want my blood," you can say. And they said, "No. How can we leave you? How can we leave our Imam and can live with Jannah and all that?" So you can see that this is something he stood for. He stood for faith. He stood for Islam. He stood for human values. He stood for oppressed people of this world, and he stood against the tyrant of his time. You see, when the war started, the whole west, I was seeing like whole west was on one side, or you can say all the powerful people are globally, and the nations and the countries or their governments or whatsoever they had in terms of resources, money, weapon, and whatsoever you call it or name it for a war to go on. They were on the one side, and many of them were silent, and many of them were the participant in that side. And Imam Khamenei was standing alone with his nation alone, and everyone was seeing like this is kind of suicide for a nation or for a country or whatsoever. But it was not a suicide. It was the policy of resistance. It was the policy of sovereignty. It was the policy of replying to that hegemony through the faith. When they said, for example, America is Akbar, for example, they are going to like ruin the culture and everything in Iran. He said Allah is Akbar, and Allah is the one who owns everything. So he was a Tawhidi mindset. He had a Tawhidi mindset, and this is what these all people are standing up for, because they know that in our hearts we all know all powers belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is what he reflected to each and every. We are going to follow Imam Hussein alayhi salam's footstep, and he did it, because as Sister earlier was saying that he said whatever he said, he did it. And we saw in his life, even if there was a huge loss in terms of war, he accepted that. If there was any mistake made by them, he accepted that. And this is something, I would say it was something very new to the global world, where in the wars or the conflicts, people or the nations or the countries, they hide the truth that how much loss they have suffered and what has happened. So I would say that these people are standing up for these true values of human, which reflects human values, which reflects the values of justice, truth, and righteousness. And this is something very profound and deeply rooted in Islam, deeply rooted in Karbala, deeply rooted in Ashura, and deeply rooted in his character throughout his life. You can say from the age of 15, 16, you see he was working for Islam. He was participating in battles. He was part of Inqilab Islami. He was serving as a president. He was serving. He was writing books. He was conducting like sermons and lectures and all that. So his whole life, and you can say every moment, I think, since the beginning of the awakening, or the, you can say, when we are a kind of sensible person as a child or a young person, he is serving Islam. He is not serving himself, he is not serving Iran, he is not serving XYZ, he is serving his nation through the values of Islam. And the most, and I really appreciate and admire, and like, I don't have even exact word how can I express my feelings, like when I see how he made everything about Islam and humanity and justice and truth and resilience against the hegemony of the tyrant Pharaoh of today's, who are mustakbirin and who are thinking that they can do what they want, and a nation who has suffered sanction, who has suffered propaganda from last past 4 decades since he was ruling as well. And he was still doing everything with a calm and patient mind. I never ever saw him angry, I never saw him emotional, I never saw him emotional in the sense the way ordinary people get emotional or our ordinary leader gets emotional. You see, when Trump or other leaders, they come there and here and they shout and they use abusive language, or they the kind of words they use. We haven't seen him doing that, and that's how he just not only did himself, and he prepared such nation, the whole nation, who is ready to sacrifice himself and their families and their loved one and everything
Sure.
for the value of justice, truth, and Islam, as well as humanity. Because all these values, from Epstein file, you can see, we can see that the values they uphold in West, for example, they are not even sincere to their
All
own
right, Ms.
children.
Naqvi. Yeah, please hold that thought. We're going to cross over now to our senior correspondent, Gisumi Shamhari, who's joining us from the holy city of Mashhad with more updates as we can see the remains of martyr Ayatollah Khamenei and his family members are being passed through the streets in the holy city of Mashhad, slowly inching towards his final resting place. Gisu?
Well, as you can see behind me, the hearse carrying the caskets of Iran's martyred leader and his family members that were martyred alongside him, and the U.S.-Israeli attack has just arrived here in 15 Khordad Square, the 15th of Khordad Square, alongside Imam Reza Boulevard, leading to the holy shrine of Imam Reza. And as you can see, a huge crowd is here to bid farewell. Tens of millions of people have turned out in this mourning ceremony, which will definitely go down in history as one of the biggest mourning ceremonies. You see the people who are singing eulogies. They are chanting slogans demanding revenge for the blood of the martyred leader. They are also vowing to continue the path of the martyred leader and follow the lead of the new leader, Ayatollah Sayyid Khamenei. The atmosphere, as you can see, is very somber. People are crying, and of course it is a very hard time for all Iranians as they say goodbye to their beloved martyred leader. At this point in time, you can see millions that have turned out to say goodbye to their leader and to vow revenge and to vow to continue the martyred leader's path. It is also a time to remember that the martyred leader's family lost their lives alongside him. In the eulogies that were recited today, there were lots of similarities in the way Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei was martyred with the Battle of Karbala, and the way Imam Hussein was martyred, and the eulogists were pointing that out, of course. Again, another indication that Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei walked down the path of Imam Hussein, the symbol of resistance for Iranians and all freedom seekers worldwide. Among the crowds that are here today, as as a witness to what I just said, there are plenty of people that have come from regional countries. We have huge crowds from Pakistan, from India, from Afghanistan. They are all holding their national flags alongside the red flags that have become a symbol of demanding revenge for the martyred leader's blood. They want the enemies to hear their voice, and the mere fact that so many people have turned out in their millions in and of itself has sent a very strong message. And of course, they are also chanting slogans to make sure that their message will come across. You see that this person will be going all the way to Imam Reza's holy shrine. It is a direct route. I believe you can see the golden dome of the holy shrine at the end of the route. And this is where, of course, the martyred leader will be laid to rest. There have been so many people on the streets. The numbers have surpassed all the estimates of the municipality of the holy city of Mashhad, and that is why there are strict crowd control measures into place. They are demanding people not to try to go near the holy shrine because all of those roads leading to the holy shrine now are blocked. And of course, all the streets across the holy shrine and the ones leading to the holy shrine are full of people. You can hear the people as they chant slogans, "Death to America" and "Death to Israel," demanding revenge for the blood of the leader. And this is a message that they are trying to get across today as a week-long funeral culminates in this ceremony in the holy city of Mashhad and the holy shrine of Imam Reza, the hometown of the martyred leader.
Thank you, Gisu. Press TV's senior correspondent Gisu Misha Ahmadi joining us from the holy city of Mashhad. Let's cross over once again to Faiza Naqvi joining us from Manchester. Miss Naqvi, a broader and general question here. In your opinion, where does Ayatollah Khamenei rank among global leaders and Islamic leaders? Many scholars have been stating that martyr Ayatollah Khamenei embodies the path of Prophet Muhammad and Imam Ali, the first Shia Imam.
Thank you so much for such a great question. I would say we always read about Imam Ali alayhi salam, we always read about Imam Hussein alayhi salam and the way they stood for. We always read the history of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, how lonely he was while his struggle, and the remaining Aima alayhi salam as well. So I would say, like, as a servant of Aimas, I would say after Imam Khomeini Rahmatullah alayh, he's one of the purest leader we have ever found, and the one who was reflecting true values of Imam Ali alayhi salam's character and the true values of Imam Hussein alayhi salam's character, and he reflected how the pain of Sayyida Fatima Salamullah alayha should be answered, and how the answer to the Hal min Nasir Yansurna, he replied this slogan through his whole life. Like, he replied to that slogan, and I would rank him among, I don't find anyone at the moment globally, especially in present leaders, like, okay, these are the one I can think about. No, I've seen a whole my life, like, I've been trying to find out who is the true leader, but when, especially in past 2 years, I would say each and every move he has made, it was so calculated and so just and so based on true values of Islam and Ahlul Bayt and Imam Ali alayhi salam's values, that no, I haven't seen anyone doing that, at least in my lifetime or in my personal experience. So I would rank him to that. And your earlier question, as you were asking, like, what these people are saying to the world while mourning, they are saying, when they are saying martyrdom is not a defeat, it's an honor, and we are here to continue this path, the one which has initiated by Imam Ali alayhi salam, which has been the mission of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we are here to continue this path, and we are the one who would continue this resistance, and we will stand against the tyranny of the the people, hegemony of the world leaders globally. And the resistance will continue, and we are united, even though we do have all the differences. You see, even in Pakistan, for example, we used to have little bit of conflicts among the ulamas, but after the martyrdom of Rebbe Muslim Sayyid Ali Khamenei, I have seen each and every soul crying deeply and being united at the same platform. And they said, no, whatever differences we have, we don't care about it. When our leader has been martyred, we are there. We can't fight anymore. We have to stand united against the real enemy. And he told us who is the real enemy. It's the US hegemony, it's the US policies, imperial state, and colonization of the mindsets globally, which are through different shapes and form, in the form of culture, or whether diplomacy, or whether policy, or whether the politics. So he showed that Islam and politics are not separate, and this is something he told through his action, and through this nation is upholding those values. And this nation who is standing on the grounds here and there, they are telling, we will continue this whole path, the path you have chosen, of it, the path of independence, sovereignty, dignity, respect, like the high heart minazillah, we say in Karbala. So these are the values these people are reflecting and telling the world, that we don't care about anyone. We would stand up against the hegemony. We are independent, sovereign country, and no one has right to decide for us. We are the one who would decide for ourselves the way we want to live and the way we want to conduct our affairs. And internal affairs are matters of our own personal, personal differences could be even at home with your siblings and family members. So it doesn't mean that you are turning against each other in such a way that you would want to kill, or you would want them to die, or you would want them to leave. So the regime has changed, but regime of Trump has changed. The regime of tyranny globally has changed. The regime of propaganda has changed. The global propaganda machinery, which was working from decades, and everyone was confused what is truth. The cases like Hamas Amini, and the way they portrayed how women was being suffocated over here in Iran, for example. And we have seen women in every field in Iran working so decently and in such a dignified way that we haven't seen even in the West. We haven't seen it even in East. So I think so. The model Sayyid Ali Khamenei has set is so profound, so deep, and so beautiful that everyone is supposed to learn from it. And it would take decades to read, study, research, and understand what he has done for not only this nation, but all the mustazifin of this world, who were always frightened to stand against America, or stand against any tyrant ruler globally, or stand against any kind of these kind of chains which are always controlling somebody's economy, somebody's other resources, and all that. So Sayyid Ali Khamenei told us how to be independent. Even in the limited resources, you can still survive if you unite together and you live within your resources, and Allah is there with you to help you. If you strive in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, according to the principles of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Quran and Ahlul Bayt and Rasul Khuda, no one can defeat you ever. The way no one could defeat Imam Hussein alayhi salam and our other Aimas, in the same way, Sayyid Ali Khamenei martyrdom has given a new life to this revolution of Islam. And this is the new chapter, it's the new chapter and new beginning. And we pay allegiance to the Sayyid Ali Mujtaba Khamenei as well, and we love him so much, the way we used to love Sayyid Ali Khamenei. And we will be like upholding the values of truth, justice, humanity, and we will stand with the oppressed people of this world, and we will stand against the tyrant ruler of this world, no matter what we have to sacrifice. This is what Imam Khamenei has showed us while being martyred with his family member, with little sweet granddaughter of Imam Khamenei and the rest of the family members. So he did everything he could in the same. He followed each and every footstep of of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. He is the son of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and he is the one who told how we can revive Karbala in 2 days, in today's age and time, and how these values, the way Bibi Zainab Salamullah alaiha said, like, I see nothing but beauty. In the same way, I see nothing but beauty of martyrdom of Sayyid Ali Khamenei, who has reflected the beautiful like value of Islam and Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. So no one can defeat those values. No one could ever do that, because these values are based on human values. These values are based on truth and justice. So if we are standing up for truth and justice, we have to sacrifice, and the fear of being killed is no more in anyone after this kind of like role model which has been reflected by Sayyid Ali Khamenei. So I would say he's amongst one of the after Imam Ali alayhi salam and Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, he's one of the greatest servant of Imam Ali alayhi salam, as his son and the greatest leader of this world, who reflected, portrayed, and manifested each and every value in a best possible way he could to manifest, which is based on Quran, Sunnah, and Ahlul Bayt life. So I would say that he is the one we really need to look up to, and we really need to like I would say, like, we have the biggest responsibility now, because we are the one who loves him, because we love Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and we love Rasul Khuda sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we love Islam as well. So if we love Islam as well, then we have to do everything Sayyid Ali Khamenei did in his lifetime from the age of 16, 17, I would say, when children are just thinking about, oh, what career I am supposed to choose, and they don't even get elder even after 30s, 40s of their age. So, but he was the one who took the responsibility just in the age of 14, 15 years of his age, and he was learning Quran in such a way that that Quran reflected in through his each and every action. Even the words he spoke, he never spoke any kind of a word less, like in terms of ikhlaq, you can say. He met children, he met women, he met officials, he met leaders globally, and he knew what is going on. And he knew better than anyone, and he guided everyone to be independent, to be sovereign, to be like having their self-reliance. This is something most beautiful, I would say. And this is the principle of Khudi. He always admired Allama Iqbal Rahmatullah Alayhi's principle through his poetry. He always said, like, I learned a lot from Iqbal Lahori, and he always, even though Pakistanis didn't learn much from him, but Sayyid Ali Khamenei did learn a lot from him, because the values through the poetry of Allama Iqbal Rahmatullah Alayh are all the same as mentioned in Quran. The values of Mu'min, values of Muttaqi, values of a human being, and value of Marde Mujahid, value of Marde Hur, values of like who should be a rahbar or leader. So we are in the age and era of Imam of our time, and he is the son and you can say the servant of Imam of our time. So that's how I see him, and I always saw him, and he proved that I had. I mean, I don't even have enough good words to reflect and say about him, like the way he's a philosopher, he's a scholar, he's an orator, he's a writer, he's an author, he's an intellectual. And I mean, whichever area of his life you look into, like as a family member, as a family person, how he look after his family and like follow the rules of Islam, and told that while serving Islam, you can serve your family members, your loved one, and everyone around you, and how you can look after everyone. So these are the things I think. So I haven't seen any leaders doing that even anywhere in the world. They might be good in certain things, but not the way Sayyid Ali Khamenei did. So I would say Imam Ali alayhi salam's value and the character, he reflected that character through his character. I mean, at least he tried his best to do that. And I see nothing, I mean, I haven't seen any flaw in his character apparently. But I'm sure it's much more deeper and beautiful than I maybe am able to imagine, because I'm not a very good person to like see the depths of these
Okay, thank you, Ms. Snapney.
so
Yeah,
much.
we're
Thank
going to have to leave it there. Actress and commentator Faiza Naqvi joining us from Manchester. Thank you for contributing to this segment of the program. Let's now turn our attention to Director, Center for Muslim Affairs, Mr. Jahangir Mohammad, who's also joining us from Manchester. Mr. Mohammad, welcome to the program. Before we get into the details and analysis, I just want to get your thoughts on the images that we've been seeing, the millions participating over the course of the week to bid farewell to martyr Ayatollah Khamenei. What does the message of this message send, the participation of the millions of millions across numerous cities?
Or a response and to the 47 years of propaganda against the Islamic Republic, about the lack of legitimacy of the government, about that the people want a secular Western style system and government, and that the Pahlavists, the human rights fraud industry, as I call them, in the West, paid by the National Endowment for Democracy and the CIA, the myths that they've been peddling about the lack of legitimacy, I think it's blown that out of all proportion, even amongst non-Muslims and Muslims who didn't really know anything about Iran and its system and the support of the people and the revolution. I think it showed that actually this is probably the biggest funeral that we've seen in at least modern history. Just after the Imam Ayatollah Khamenei's funeral, and there's no comparison with a leader anywhere in the world, including the Muslim world, where the people show such love for a leader and turn out in their millions. I mean, if Donald Trump passed away, or Tony Blair, or any of the criminals in the West, you'd be lucky if you get a few hundred people attending their funerals. And most people will be actually, cursing them when they die, or saying now they'll have their justice. That's even amongst the non-Muslims. So I think we see that the era of imperial arrogance and propaganda is dying, even in slandering and smearing the political systems of other countries that are rooted in their own history and in their own religion, and that all the myths that they've been peddling about tyrants and tyranny and authoritarian regimes, that the people have actually dispelled that in a beautiful way. And it's a lesson really to every Muslim and every non-Muslim: don't listen to the propaganda, go and visit these countries, the reality on the ground.
Mr. Mohammad, let's go over a comment that was made by Iran's top Navy commander just a few days ago. He said that the resistance has transcended borders after the martyrdom of Ayatollah Khamenei, and that the axis of resistance is no longer confined by geography. Do you see it in that light as well?
Well, yes, I've always seen the vision and the Islamic Revolution in that sense, that it should be wider. Obviously, it's had challenges, but it needs to be a global movement and amongst its allies, and appealing to the wider Muslim world as well, and bringing them or pulling them up to the same level of independence and resistance and strength against imperialism. Iran is the only country that can play that role. It's the only independent Muslim country. It's the only one that that has followed the guidance in the Quran about making ready your steeds of war to the best of your capability and leaving the results to Allah. And we see that Iran has developed its missile capacity and its strength, and it's under tremendous pressure, as we see. You know, they keep bombing every other day to force Iran to surrender, which is what it's ultimately about, to become like the Gulf Arab states or like Syria, to allow all the Europeans in, allow the Americans in, to take control of their economies and surrender their country and the resistance to them. And Iran is standing firm, saying no, as they should do. I think, you know, there was in Pakistan the late leader Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, when they were being threatened and pressured to abandon nuclear ambitions, said at the United Nations, my country will have nuclear weapons even if we have to eat grass. And I think that's the reality and the choice before the Iranian people, that they mustn't surrender, they must keep their independence, they cannot give up their missile production, even if they have to eat grass and go through this, because ultimately, in the long run, this is what will make them strong. And if they fall away from the leadership of and the direction of Imam Khamenei and Ayatollah Khamenei, then and the principles of the revolution, then, you know, unfortunately, they'll just be like the other states, totally dependent on the West.
Farzan, would you like to also comment on that as well? The statement that the resistance has now transcended borders after the martyrdom of Ayatollah Khamenei, and the axis of resistance is no longer confined by geography.
Of course, well, of course, before that, even we were talking about the unity among Muslims, Bardia, and of course, this is, you know, the blood of the martyred leader has awakened the whole world. And the whole world sees that, you know, the ultimate result of resisting, you may actually get killed, but at the end, this is you who is actually the prevailed one and the victorious one, because this is the truth that ultimately is going to prevail. And of course, you know, before that, I mean, maybe in the beginning of the victory of the Islamic Revolution and the establishment of the Islamic Republic, some people may not be that much familiar with the concept of resistance and, you know, fighting against the global arrogance and, you know, all those slogans that the Iranian nation had when they decided to, you know, overthrow the dictatorship of Pahlavi and to have an Islamic Republic. And decade after decade, years after years, on that concept and all those slogans that the Iranian nation championed for got even more, I mean, more clear for the entire world, and of course for the people in the region. Even some people in the country may, you know, not, I mean, would not that much, understand, or they were not that much familiar, or maybe they had some questions that why we have to resist. And of course, now I think even those who had this question are now very well aware of the situation and why, the leaders, the founder of the Islamic Republic, Imam Khamenei, and of course the martyr leader Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, were emphasizing on resisting and the resistance in the face of the enemy's atrocities. Because, the thing that the martyr leader was doing was not just, defending Iran's sovereignty. It was, resisting in the face of the most vicious people in the entire world that are not only a threat to the regional peace and security, but the international peace and security, and specifically the Zionist entity and its ally, the U.S. regime. The Israeli regime is not only a threat to the Palestinian people, and not only a threat to the Lebanese people, or the people in Iran, but the whole region, because of the greater Israel plan that they have. And of course, it is a very great threat to the whole world, because they have no limits, and the let's say ambitions for dominance in the region and in the world that they have has no limits, and they're no shy to cross any red lines in the region or in the whole world. So what the martyr leader did was, first of all, himself resisting in the face of the atrocities and the oppressions in the region, and teaching his own people how to be brave, how to be courageous, how to stand up against the tyranny of your time, the global arrogance, and of course teaching every single human being all around the world who seeks freedom, who seeks justice, independence, and all those human values that the Western actually countries are claiming to champion. But I think the real defender of the human rights was the martyr leader Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, and of course how he even also defended the rights of the women. We know that how Western countries are saying that they are worried about the women's right, and how they try to dictate their own narrative on defending women's rights. But it was also Ayatollah Khamenei, the martyr leader, who in different speeches, he would address the women's issue, not only inside the country, but also internationally. And of course, in recent years, he had meetings with women, and he would address the women's right, and for example saying that the most important right that a woman has inside her family is that the affection, the love that she has to receive from the family members, specifically from her husband. And of course, when it comes to the society, he also addressed the rights of actually women inside the society, and how they should be respected, and how they should of course be free to have social activities. So despite all the rhetorics and all the false narratives about him being a so-called dictator or an oppressor against his people, and not giving the Iranian women freedom, the reality was something else. That how Ayatollah Khamenei, as a religious man, and of course who defended and who was the believer of pure Islam, actually even would fight against those who had a wrong narrative from the Islamic actually teachings, he also was fighting with those people, and those people who try to make division inside the Muslim nations and Muslim Ummah around the world, and how, you know, he also defended the Palestinian cause his entire life. He was a fighter against oppression and fighting against the Israeli regime, and ultimately he sacrificed his life fighting against those vicious people.
I want to take that notion exactly to Mr. Jahangir Muhammad now. Mr. Muhammad, why did Palestine remain at the center of Ayatollah Khamenei's political vision?
Well, I think following on from Imam Khamenei, that this was something that started straight after the revolution. So Palestine was given that centrality as you know, an issue which was at the heart of U.S. imperialism and Western imperialism, but also at the heart of uniting the Muslim Ummah. It's Zionism and imperialism are very interconnected, and he understood this. You know, in fact, this was something that was understood by the last Ottoman Sultan, in effect, Sultan Abdulhamid, when Theodore Herzl came to him, and it's in his diaries, the Herzl's own diaries. He promised to wipe out the entire debt of the Ottoman state in return for a charter for Jews who were oppressed in Europe, persecuted in Europe, to settle in Palestine. And because the Sultan had his spies in the Zionist movement, he understood that movement and the danger it posed. And he said that you can settle anywhere except in Palestine, which Herzl rejected, as he stated in his diaries, that a settlement without Palestine was not possible. And then they turned to the Zionists, turned to the British, and the rest is history. So Imam Khamenei and Ayatollah Khamenei were following in that tradition. They understood the importance of Palestine in both the imperialist agenda and the Zionist agenda, but also in unifying the Muslim Ummah and understanding that Al-Quds and Masjid al-Aqsa and Palestine had a central importance to Islam, and they've stood firmly behind that principle. And we can see effectively there is no difference now between Zionism and US imperialism. For US imperialism to survive in West Asia and for Muslim dependency to continue, Israel and Zionism is needed by the United States. So they can't be separated. They are the opposite sides of the same coin, and they are a cancer to the region and have to be removed for the whole region to become independent and to gain progress. And I think both Imam Khomeini and Ayatollah Khamenei both understood this, and they stood firmly on these principles and took the nation with them. And I think the whole world is now actually seeing it since October 7, 2023. Even non-Muslims see this, that Iran is effectively the only form of resistance to both US imperialism and Zionism and Israel. So many non-Muslims now openly talk about this, that there is no other form of resistance to that.
Right. And how did Ayatollah Khamenei view the concept of foreign intervention and external domination? He was opposed. He was very directly, very severely, harshly opposed to the issue of foreign intervention. he always had the vision of a self-reliant, self-sufficient Iran, highlighting the issue of independence. Give us your thoughts on that and what role he actually played in the issue of his legacy across the Muslim world, when we take into notion that issue of cutting the hand of foreign intervention, not just with regards to the borders of Iran, but also that was something that could be translated to the region as well.
I think obviously it's a tradition that's continued. You know, the concept of no East, no West, Islam is the best of Imam Khamenei, and that he continued that. But you know, in stabilizing Iran after the death of Imam Khomeini, he could have taken a different direction. He could have gone for, like the Arab regimes and other countries, to use the oil wealth for development. Of course, Iran has development, but it didn't sacrifice its principles and was sanctioned for that. It has been for nearly 47 years in one way or the other. But despite that, he stressed the need for importance, developing indigenous skills and talent, and scientists and engineers, building your own weapons. And he was proven right. We've seen it now that, and this is something I've said in the past, that one, by buying US weapons, which all the Muslim countries are doing, they are basically, this is blood money, because that money is then used to bomb and oppress Muslims itself in the arms industry. It helps it to grow. And secondly, you can't use those planes. You can't use those weapons because you need their codes, you need their, their spare parts. I think Imam Khamenei actually gave a speech, I recall, at some point about this, and everybody's seen this now, that you can't. This is wasted money, and Iran has demonstrated that. In the end, these U.S. bases in the Gulf states and the U.S. couldn't even provide that security. So this has now become obvious to everybody, and I think others have seen it very clearly in the field of defense, but also in the field of dependence, economic dependence. We see this everywhere. We've seen it in Africa, where the Africans are now realizing that they were, even if it's not militarily being dependent, it's economic and debt dependence, and IMF, World Bank, and that's enslaved these people. It's made them hostages, so they can't take an independent line when they want to. And it's a process of wealth extraction. So the wealth comes out of those countries, more and more debt is piled on, and then the people, poor people, the masses actually suffer in the end, because they are the ones who pay the debt through indirect taxes in places like Pakistan, in Egypt, and they're going to have major crisis because the population growth in the next few decades, they will not be able to feed their population. So Iran has chartered with Imam Khamenei a different direction, which is the right direction, and hopefully those who follow will continue in that direction, but also teach the others in the region that they should have learnt this lesson. And we see it with Syria. What's happened to Syria now? Every European country is now back. All the colonial powers are back. France was the latest. The countries being carved up. Turkey, the Gulf states, and now all these European countries, and it's being handed back to the colonial powers. And this is And the Arab world calls this a revolution. This is not a revolution. This is a reinstatement of colonialism. A revolution is what happened in Iran, which led to liberation from the tyrants and also the colonizers and the imperialists behind them.
Farzan, having this notion of Ayatollah Khamenei's staunch opposition to foreign intervention and external domination, having that in mind, how did Iran's regional and international position change during his years of leadership?
Of course. As you just mentioned, he defended, Iran's sovereignty so much, and of course, he was opposing foreign dominance and foreign intervention inside the country. And we know that, of course, before the Islamic Revolution, Iran suffered from, the world powers' interventions and the occupation, and how the Iranian nation were basically under so much oppression because of the kings and shahs, that they were somehow a puppet of the world powers, namely the UK and of course the US regime. And of course it is also worthy to mention that the Islamic Revolution was the result of those, oppressions that the Iranian nation faced and suffered from. And, the slogans that we hear, such as death to America, death to Israel, is because of that, is because of the long, long history that the Iranian nation has when it comes to the world powers. Even, as I just mentioned, before the Islamic Revolution, for example, during the World War I or World War II, Iran was occupied despite, its neutral stance and having no side, taking no side in those wars, but the country was occupied by the world powers. And of course, after that, we had the coup in 1953 that was orchestrated by the United States, overthrowing the democratically elected government of Mashhad. And so the Iranian nation had this experience when it comes to the world powers and foreign intervention. So they decided to have this revolution, Islamic Revolution. And of course, under the leadership of the founder of the Islamic Revolution, Islamic Republic, Imam Khamenei, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, and of course after that, under the leadership of the martyr leader Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, those values of independence and defending the country's sovereignty was high on the agenda of the country's policy. And of course, the martyr leader was, if not the number one, but at least one of those people in the country that would, say that, and of course he didn't let any of those things happen. I mean, that the experiences that the Iranian nation had before the Islamic Revolution, and of course this was the reason why the enemies were angry about. And during his, latest remarks, before his martyrdom, he said that he was addressing the Iranian nation, saying that, do you know that why the U.S. regime is angry and doing all those atrocities against you? Because you have a country which is very valuable, and the enemy wants your country because it has lots of resources like oil, and of course geography, the very valuable geography that the country has. And he said he addressed the Iranian nation, saying that the enemies want to take over your country, and we don't let them do this, and this is why they are angry. So he didn't let the world powers to interfere, not only interfere, but he didn't, let the foreign dominance over the country. He stood up against anyone who would, say anything, unfair about the Iranian nation. He would address, he would talk, he would, clarify, and of course he would tell the Iranian nation that it is also your responsibility to be strong and to stand against the global arrogance.
Jahangir Mohammad, what role did Ayatollah Khamenei believe Iran should play in supporting oppressed nations across the world?
Well, that was central to the very foundation of the Islamic Revolution, that particularly in Palestine, but also in other places, that Iran should play that role, and it has supported people in different countries, in Lebanon, in Palestine, in Yemen, but sometimes people forget that Iran played a very key role. It's in Bosnia. I'm aware of that. I was involved in Bosnia, and of course Iran provided, when there was an arms embargo on the Muslims of, effectively it was on the Muslims of Bosnia, the number one country that came in and helped the Bosnians with the weapons that they needed and the arms to survive and to resist the genocide was Iran. And I'm sure in parts of Africa, in Sudan, Iran played a role. Unfortunately, the Sudanese went over to, on the behest of the Saudis, left Iran and basically ended up as a destroyed state. So Iran under Imam Khamenei has seen its ability to play that role, and it has done it. Unfortunately, with the climate of propaganda and sectarianism and other games being played in the region, some of those countries went in a different direction and have really suffered the consequences of those decisions. But we see in Lebanon that Israel is still being resisted. There were two invasions and occupations, and it was Iran's help that prevented that. And we've seen that in Yemen, the movement there has gone from strength to strength. Within its capacity, obviously during this period, Iran was severely sanctioned and subject to all kinds of propaganda. It wasn't able to extend that as it wanted, but it's Imam Khamenei continued in that tradition, and it's very much needed. And really everybody else has really given up, in a sense, to US imperialism and normalized. And had it not been for the last few years, most of them would have normalized with the state of Israel as well.
And Mr. Mohammad, staying with you, what influence do you think Ayatollah Khamenei had beyond Iran's borders, and how is his legacy likely to continue across the Muslim world? Mr. Mohammad.
Oh, sorry. So I think obviously we've seen the conflict has opened people's eyes to what's happening around the world. And I think more and more people now appreciate Iran's position and ideology and strengths, and why Iran does what it does in certain respects. And they will want to go in that direction, and I think that will almost certainly lead others to seek to become more independent and emulate Iran. although of course they have their own struggles, the people in those countries with their rulers. It all, I think Iran has a key role to play as the senior partner and the independent state to help lift those people and countries out of the Western grip, and to help them understand that the West is not their friend. And in reality, they should be able to see this, that wherever the Europeans and the US imperialists have been involved in a Muslim country or an African country with the promises of development and a better future, it just hasn't happened. And more of them are seeing that. More are turning to China, where, in a matter of a few decades, some of those countries, their infrastructure has been developed by China and their airports, and China doesn't get involved in the politics of those countries, but rather develops them. I think Iran can play that role, helping and encouraging them to become independent, and also, I think, strong militarily. The West and the US imperialists use militias and groups that they create in Africa and elsewhere to destabilize, and that's something that Iran has to help those countries to overcome. They have to do it themselves, unfortunately, as well, but this is part of the helping direction and helping them understand what's going on, and that the West is not going to liberate them and develop them, and that they have to develop their own Islamic values and civilization, and has to be based on unity and resilience against imperialism.
Jahangir Bahman, why did Ayatollah Khamenei consider military deterrence essential for Iran's national security, and how did the concept of deterrence influence Iran's foreign and security policy, specifically when we're looking at the time since the illegal U.S.-Israeli imposed war on Iran that started in late February?
So I think the West has aided Egypt and other Muslim countries militarily, primarily as a means to keep the existing status quo in power, and not as a means to defend themselves. Both Imam Khomeini and Ayatollah Khamenei understood that no country can stand against its enemies and against the West without military power and military strength, even though they will smear you as terrorists, as militants, as people committed to violence, as even, Islam is violent. But, this military strength and military power is ordained in the Quran and in Islamic teachings against building the power against your enemies, most importantly. We have countries in the Muslim world with military strength, but it's all purchased from the West, and it's not seen as a resistance to the West. And Imam Khamenei's approach was different, that its central plank of being independent. And we can see that the West's main agenda is to ensure the demilitarization and the fragmentation of Muslim countries, so they're no longer a military threat, because the US and the European powers have always, despite presenting themselves as a civilization built on values and democracy and progress, and that's what makes them strong. In reality, it is the power of the gun and the power of military power that has made all these other countries their hostage, and they have disarmed and made those countries defenseless. And that's what they tried with Iran. They're still trying. They're trying that very hard through diplomacy or through war. They want Iran to become a fractured state with no military power, exactly like they've turned Libya, Syria, Iraq, and other countries into. So the leadership in Iran, Imam Khamenei, understood that very well and understood the need for Muslim countries to become independent military powers with their own engineers, with their own experts and technicians, being able to manufacture their own missiles and weapons.
Farzan, on that same notion that Mr. Jahangir Mahmad was alluding to, how did Iran's missile and drone capabilities develop and flourish under Ayatollah Khamenei's leadership? And what connection did he see between military strength and diplomacy?
Of course. Well, during, in the first years of the victory of the Islamic Revolution, and after that, we know that 2 or 3 years after that, Iran faced 8 years of imposed war with Iraq. And at that time, Iran was not that much capable militarily. And even some equipments they had to import, and of course, the countries that had those equipments would not agree to give them to Iran because their complicity in the war with Iran, with the Ba'ath regime of Iraq. And of course, at that time, Iran didn't have any missile program, and let's say that the missile program of the country was started as the result of the 8 years of imposed war. And at that time, that Iran, the country, was attacked by missiles from Iraq. And so the commanders, on top of them, the father of the Iran's missile program, Martyr Tehrani Muqaddam, they tried to basically develop the country's missile program and to make it something indigenous. And of course, Iran developed the program and tried to make itself very powerful when it comes to the military power. And of course, the role of the martyr leader Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei was very significant, as he was, the military commander as well for the country, and how he was a very strong supporter of the country's scientific and military capability, and how he was a very strong defender of scientific capability, and how he respected those who are involved in science, and how of course he would call on the Iranian nation to just make yourself powerful, and the country has to be powerful. And of course he would say that those nations who are not powerful, they will be delivered a strong blow from their enemies. So that is why Iran has to be strong and powerful. And of course we saw that how that thing actually came into reality under his leadership during the 12-day war and the third imposed war by the enemies. The whole world saw Iran's strength when it comes to the military power and capability, and how Iran had managed and has managed to develop its missile program, and of course drones that Iran has actually made indigenously to face the world powers that are basically are equipped with very strong and developed equipments, military equipments, but Iran managed to face them and to defeat them. And of course, Ayatollah Khamenei valued as I just mentioned, the scientific development of the country and how Iran needs to, be powerful to defend itself, because, as I just mentioned earlier, the country is a very valuable one, and because of the resources, the geography, everything that it has. It is a very good target for the enemies. So such valuable country has to be equipped with military capabilities for hard days, and we saw that how Iran was much more ready, let's say, than those days that the 8 years of imposed war were happening inside the country, even much stronger than the previous war. I mean, the 12-day war. And of course, according to Iranian officials from the armed forces, even during the recent U.S. Israeli aggression, Iran managed to get even more, military facilities and develop more military facilities, and to make more drones and missiles, and make itself even stronger when it comes to air defense system and etc. So how Ayatollah Khamenei actually managed to make Iran stronger is very important, and this is why, of course, the one reason that the Iranian nation are now have basically turned into their masses now in the holy city of Mashhad to appreciate the martyr leader for what he did, for giving the Iranian nation this reputation, this respect, that the whole world now respects the Iranian nation. They say glory to Iran and to the Islamic Republic of Iran, because they say that how Iran was able to defend itself by its powerful military capability, and of course with the nation's unity, and how two main pillars of the country are, of course, one of them is the military might, and another one is the unity and solidarity among the nation, which is, of course, when it comes to the diplomacy, the unity among the nation is also very important. And as our diplomats have said, including Iran's foreign minister during their talks with the U.S. regime, they were saying that, of course, they want to consolidate what they have achieved on the battlefield. So when a nation is capable and powerful militarily, it has the upper hand when it comes to the negotiating table and when it comes to diplomacy. And I think this is what exactly the martyr leader believed in, and this is why he was, supporting the, strength of the country, the military strength and military capability, because we see that even now how Iran has this leverage, and of course over the Strait of Hormuz. And I know that there's this actually quote from one of the IRGC commanders saying that even closing the Strait of Hormuz in the future was also one of the martyr leader's, plans, and he had this in mind, actually asking the military commanders to think about this leverage. And he probably was thinking about such, hard things for the Iranian nation, getting them ready to have this leverage over their enemies, to just, force them to at least see some concessions, or to stop their hostility against the Iranian nation, we see that how the Strait of Hormuz now has become a very strong leverage for Iran, and how it has basically given Iran the upper hand when it comes to the negotiating table, and it has given the armed forces this power to say that Iran is controlling the Strait of Hormuz, and everyone has to respect Iran's sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz because it is located in Iran's territorial waters. And of course, what we witness now in the holy city of Mashhad, as people are waving red flags in sign of a revenge for the martyr leader, this clearly shows that how angry people are about the country's enemies, and how they are calling for revenge, and how they are saying even after, we know that of course the leader was martyred months ago, but during this funeral procession, people got the chance to express first of all, their love and faith toward the martyr leader, and renew their pledge of allegiance to the current leader, Ayatollah Sayyid Mujtaba Khamenei, and voice their outrage and anger against their enemies.
One last question for Jahangir Muhammad in Manchester. Mr. Muhammad, which achievements of Ayatollah Khamenei are likely to have the greatest long-term impact, and what lessons can future generations learn from his leadership?
Well, I think he has a history of achievements. I think survival itself through the economic sanctions, the wars that have been faced, the resistance. But I think, I think the last 3 years, which with the genocide against the Palestinians and the absolute determination to support the Palestinians, will be remembered by the entire world. I think, with the greatest powers, Israel and the United States, totally on one side, fully supporting the genocide, not even criticizing Israel. The same here in the United Kingdom. The same in most other Western countries, with a few exceptions. A total global silence on one of the greatest crimes that we've seen in the last 100 years. And one man stood up to that, Ayatollah Khamenei. He refused to bow, and the Iranian leadership, under that instruction, refused to surrender. It was a valiant resistance, not even moderating their words, their harsh criticism, countering the propaganda of Israel. And I think for me, as somebody outside of Iran, although I'm aware of many things that happened and his achievements, I think this will be a memory that the entire world will remember. And even now, non-Muslims praise Iran, and they see Iran as the only country that, and its allies, of course, the only country that stood up against this horror show and a great evil, and didn't capitulate, despite the constant calls for the US to surrender, for Iran to surrender, ultimately leading to an attack on Iran itself, the 12-day war, and this second one, and being able to resist that with its missile and drone technology and its skills on the military field. I think it's endeared him to most of the world, and he will always be remembered for that. So for me, he died a martyr's death, somebody who of great dignity, and in his final years, in those 3 years, he exemplified those ideas, his strategy and his thought and leadership and independence. He projected that to the whole world, including the non-Muslim world. And just as Ayatollah Imam Khamenei's revolution changed the world, it was a major event in the world when he stood up to the greatest friend of the US in the region and toppled that power. I think Ayatollah Khamenei, may Allah reward him for this. He has showed the entire world the values that he stood for, that he fought for in Iran, that he tried to put in place, and he put them on global display for everyone to see, and everyone's seen it, and there's a global appreciation of that and recognition.
Director, Center for Muslim Affairs, Jahangir Muhammad, joining us from Manchester. Thank you, sir, for sharing your thoughts with us on this segment of the program. For those of you who are just joining us, these are live images of the final leg of the week-long funeral processions for the late leader of the Islamic Revolution, martyr Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, as his remains and those of his family members who were assassinated in the illegal U.S.-Israeli imposed war on Iran on the first day of that war. They are being transported now to their final resting place in the holy city of Mashhad, the hometown of martyr Ayatollah Khamenei. As we can see, a sea of mourners have amassed directing the hearse of Ayatollah Khamenei and his family members towards the holy shrine of Imam Reza, his final resting place. We're going to continue with our analysis here as activist and commentator Sayyid Ayatollah Andrabi is joining us now from the British capital, London. Sir, welcome to the program. I want to get your thoughts initially on the images that we're seeing, the massive funeral ceremonies, city after city. What does the participation of the millions of people send, in your opinion?
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yes, it has been right from the day from the 3rd of July. These have been unprecedented scenes of people coming, and all types of people, men, women, children, everyone. The first thing is to make sense of this. What is this? How do you describe it? That's the first thing. Now, what is this? It is, we may call it unprecedented, and that's true, but this is really something we need to understand, and particularly in the context of the day and age we are living in. It's not people, it's not a person. The Imam Martyr Sayyid Ali Khamenei was a man, was a person, but he does not represent a person here. He represents something we need to understand. He represents the Islamic Revolution, the Islamic State, what the Islamic State has been doing, how it has been conducting its politics after the revolution in 1979. So there's all this what the person of Imam Khamenei represents. And when we see people coming from all corners of Iran with all the passion, with everything which you can see on their faces, men and women, they are basically renewing their allegiance to what Imam Khamenei stood for. I think it's absolutely sensible to compare it with the referendum, which when Imam Khomeini landed from Paris when he landed after the victory of Islamic Revolution in Tehran, the first thing he did is he said we should ask people whether they want the system of Wilayat Faqih with me as Wali Faqih, the Imam Khomeini as Wali Faqih. Let me ask people. I won't impose myself on people. A referendum was held, and it was overwhelming majority which said yes. Exactly the same referendum has taken place when people came and when people are thronging to the funeral of Imam Khamenei. The same referendum is taking place. People are renewing their allegiance to this system, to the system of this Wilayat Faqih. And we need to properly understand the significance of this system. For it has a very wide significance, and there are spheres of its significance. It means something to the Muslim and Islamic world, and also to the wider human world, to the world in which we are living in. If you let me, I can continue, or I will come back to you if you have, if there is some other guest waiting to speak.
Would you like to add anything to that, Farzana?
Well, of course, we were talking about what message this funeral procession has, and this is also very, I think, interesting to mention what we are seeing now. People, holding a banner, reading "We will kill Trump," and of course, this is a clear message of the Iranian nation calling for revenge for those people who committed this crime of assassinating Iran's leader, and of course the tears that we see, that how people are expressing their emotions and how they were crying, and of course we know that U.S. President Donald Trump once said in recent days that he's surprised by Iranian tears, and they're crying, and he thinks that they're quote-unquote fake. I think that he has to watch this massive crowd again and think again that whether he believes or not this is fake, this is real. This is not AI, this is not fake, this is not being made up. Nobody forced these people to come out. Every single one of them have come out out of respect, out of love, out of commitment, and of course out of anger and outrage against their enemies. Again, we're seeing the banners of the people carrying that reads "Kill Trump" with a picture of Trump, and of course the flags, the red flags that they are waving in sign of revenge. So this clearly shows that how the Iranian nation hate their enemies, hate Donald Trump, and hate any foreign intervention. They oppose any foreign dominance, as their martyr leader did. And of course, we were talking about how the martyr leader was opposing the foreign dominance, and this is exactly what the Iranian people are talking about.
Yeah, hold that thought, Farzana. Let's go back to Mr. Ayatollah Andrabi. Sir, can you explain to us Martyr Imam Khamenei's stance on the issue of Muslim unity? He did repeatedly emphasize on the notion of Muslim unity, and how did he approach sectarian differences within the Islamic world?
Yes, I will come back to it. But first, what I was saying about the kind of referendum, people showing their allegiance to the system, this has to be also seen in the context. The context is that from years now, since the Islamic Revolution, and particularly since the last 10-15 years, this has been the dominant narrative, that there's a regime in Iran, there are some Ayatollahs who have taken over Iran. Iran is not what it is. And there have been anti-hijab movements and like this, just to show that Irani people are one thing, the regime is other thing. The regime has imposed itself. Now, all this, what has been happening since 3rd of July, it has really dismantled all this narrative. It has thrown it out of window. There is nothing like that. There's an unimaginable cohesion, a national cohesion. All types of people and all ages, they are participating in this. Though, so it's not a regime. It was the people's expression of their own will. Now, coming to this, what you are saying about the unity, this was a very favorite theme of the late Imam Khamenei. He spoke about it, but he also took some practical steps towards it. For example, he issued a fatwa saying that all the sanctities, for example, Prophet's wives, Ummul Mumineen, and others, the sanctity who are held in great respect and who are held as sort of sacred in a very sacred sense by Muslims, Shia, Sunnis, and no one should do anything which hurts the sentiments of other fellow Muslims outside the Tashayyu, other fellow Muslims. Things should not be done which hurt the other Muslims regarding what they hold very sacred, what are their sanctities. This was one of the fatwas, and this was very helpful. So he would always speak of unity, and recently, just 2 days before, one of the delegates from Hezbollah, he gave an interview on Al Alam TV, which is a part of, I think it's a part of IRIB, I'm not sure. He gave interview in Arabic to Al Alam, and he said the Imam Khamenei had a strategic vision about Palestine. He said he thought of Palestine as an issue which can unite Muslims. I mean, people who share beliefs and who share fundamental beliefs, who share the belief in God, in book, in prophet, fundamental beliefs, if they are not historically united, they can be united in political struggles. And this unity in political struggles ultimately leads to more fundamental and more basic unity. So Imam Khamenei was looking at this as a strategic issue also. And that was the vision before, that was the vision of Imam Khomeini, late Imam Khomeini also, when he declared the last Friday as the Day of Quds. Day of Quds was also meant to integrate Muslims worldwide on the issue of Palestine, which touches at the very core of Islam. I mean, it's the question of justice, question of fairness. People have been expelled from their houses. They are still living in tents. So it is the issue which has a potential of uniting Muslims and justice-loving people all over the world. As we see what has happened after the October 2023, how it has united Muslims and other people also who have opposed the Israeli genocide, and there has been a huge mobilization throughout the world. So this was one of the ways which Imam Khamenei thought that the Palestine issue, it has the potential of integrating, and he used to emphasize always the issue of the Muslim unity.
Right, and Sayyid and Ayatollah, how did Ayatollah Khamenei influence the role of the axis of resistance in the region?
the axis of resistance is basically, to understand it properly, is the part of the Islamic revolution. In Iran, they call it Mashhad Khamenei. And I have seen in Qom, people after prayers, they raise their hands and they pray to Allah to safeguard the movement of this Mashhad Khamenei ta Inqilab Mahdi. So this movement, which was created by Imam Khamenei, the Islamic revolutionary movement, which was nothing new. Imam Khamenei said, I am taking the leaf from where Imam Hussein left it. And he used to repeatedly say that it was nothing new, it was Islam Nabi Muhammadi. Islam what Prophet Muhammad والسلام, what he brought. And the same thing was repeated by Imam Khamenei many times. So this movement, the first child of this movement was the Islamic Republic of Iran. Islamic Republic of Iran was born out of this. And the second child was the resistance in Lebanon, the resistance in that region, which gradually grew. It started as a resistance owing allegiance to Islamic revolution, to the leadership, to Imam, but it gradually grew and went on growing with Hamas leader Sheikh Ahmad Yassin. He visited Tehran, he visited Iran, and also so it went on proliferating throughout this region. So now we call it axis of resistance. Now it is much bigger phenomenon. It is Lebanon, it is Gaza, it is Yemen, it is Hashd Shabi in Iraq. It's a much bigger phenomenon, and very great souls, very great leaders have contributed to it. But in the first place, it was the child of the Islamic revolution founded by Imam Khomeini. It was basically that. And Imam Khamenei, under his leadership, it became very mature. And in the last 3 years, he would again and again repeat that we are now heading to the end of the Zionist entity. He was very clear that what has happened, it will ultimately lead to the end of Zionist entity, and that absolutely seems to be what is going to happen.
Farzana, how can Ayatollah Khamenei's political and intellectual legacy be preserved, and what does a continuation of his path mean for the future of the Islamic Republic?
Well, of course, I think that the Iranian nation, as they have basically said and announced, are fully ready to continue the path of the martyred leader Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei. And even, the younger generation, I think, are even more ready than anyone else. And despite all the efforts by the Western media propaganda and of course the hybrid warfare against the Iranian nation, to just make them, turn their back to the establishment, to the path of the martyred leader, or to the legacy that he has left behind, or to the principles and the values of the Islamic Revolution. But we see that the generation that has not even lived at the time of the victory of the Islamic Revolution, they were not even born, or they didn't see the 8 years of imposed war, or they didn't experience the difficulties that the country had during the past few years, but the young generation still actually defends all the principles of the Islamic Revolution. And I think even after the martyrdom of Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, his blood has even, first of all, awakened some people, those who would not know him that much, or his path, or the principles that he championed. And of course, the second group is those who now see themselves even more eager to follow the path of the martyr leader and the legacy that he has left behind. And this is what we hear from them, and because they think that this is the moment that they have to rise, as you know, the slogan, of course, of the funeral procession is also the same. It reads, "We must rise," and they say that we must rise for the independence of our country, for the strength of our country, and of course we must rise to make the resistance front stronger. And they believe that, of course, the ultimate victory is for who are resisting, who are standing up for the human values. And of course, every single one of these people that are attending in this funeral procession, this burial procession now in Mashhad, and of course before that in different cities across Iran, in Qom, in Tehran, and of course in the Iraqi cities of Najaf and Karbala, all of these are a sign and of course a very clear testament to how, you know, the leader's efforts have been fruitful, and the blood that he gave to the resistance, to Iran, to Islam, to the resistance front was not wasted. And all of his, you know, fights and struggles to just consolidate the principles of the Islamic Revolution were completely fruitful, and we see the result in how people are chanting in respect and in tribute to the martyr leader, and are expressing their outrage against the enemies. And I think this is, of course, one of the most important principles that the martyr leader Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei stood up for, which is, as we mentioned earlier, opposing the foreign intervention and interference and the foreign dominance and the global arrogance. And I think the Iranian people are even more eager, as I just mentioned earlier, to stand up against the enemies, to fight them, despite all the efforts and provocative actions by the enemies to weaken the Iranian nation. They thought that they can do that by assassinating its leaders, but it did not happen, because it is, a reality that once you want to fight the truth, it is you that is going to be defeated, but not the truth. The truth prevails, and as it has, of course, prevailed throughout, the decades, and of course in the recent years, when the Islamic Republic and the Iranian nation decided to not to let the world powers to dictate them what to do, because they wanted to be an independent nation. And this is of course interesting to mention that I was hearing from one of the participants in the funeral procession that actually she was saying that this is the school of thought of the martyr leader Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei that the enemies are angry about, and they are actually terrified about. And even if another person was in position of the martyr leader, and that person would, do the exact same thing as the Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei did, they again would show their hostility against that person, as they are again doing and continuing with their aggression, with their violation, how they are, again, their false narratives about the current leader, Ayatollah Sayyid Mujtaba Khamenei, and how they are, doing their provocative actions against, in the region, in country, with bombing and carrying out acts of aggression against different targets inside the country, basically try to overshadow the significance of this million-man funeral procession that is going on, because they're fearful and they're terrified of the unity among the people, because this is the reality that they don't want to see.
Mr. Andrabi, in London, what influence did Ayatollah Khamenei have beyond Iran's borders, and how is his legacy likely to continue across the Muslim world in your views?
Well, I think I have written about it. I think a couple of papers I wrote about it, that we are actually, what has been happening for the last 2-3 years, particularly under the leadership of the late Imam Khamenei, I have said that we have come into a new era. We are not, the old era is gone. The era when there was Palestine, there was Quds, and all of it was taken away, and everything was, at that time also, if there are 56 or 55 Muslim countries or whatever, everything existed then also. But we lost our assets, and it was a continuous downfall. The enemy was encroaching more and more. People, the Palestinian people, they were rendered homeless. It was a small Zionist entity planted, but in '67 they extended, and it was a successful extension. Nobody doing anything, no resistance from nowhere. Now things were starting happening the opposite way. We were starting ascending and confronting the enemy. So this I called, this was a new era. And it's a new era in a more fundamental sense. And that I want to share with you, that I am myself, I'm a student of the present. That means I'm a student of knowing what is this day and age we are living in. It has not come into being overnight. Every present flows from some past. So every present has a history. I am seriously studying, and it will be a book which will come out from myself. It's about the history of present. Now this present in which we are living in for the last 400-500 years, as if you look at it, if you analyze it, it's a continuous attempt of setting aside, of making irrelevant anything divine, anything God-related. It's absolutely taking religion out of public space, and that explains why so much injustice taking place and nobody saying anything. For example, in Gaza, it was a genocide, but where was what we sometimes called world conscience? Who protested against it? Now, when Imam Khamenei, when he was martyred, how many countries really showed some proper condemnation? Because there's no morality in the current politics, in the politics that has been there, because in this it has been for the past so many years, I say hundreds of years, it is all the morality has been taken out. With the Islamic Revolution of Iran and with Imam Khamenei, we were a new politics was introduced to the world, and at this time also. Now, if someone asks you, what is this funeral? Is it religious? Is it political? They want you to categorize it. It has to be either religious or political or something. But I mean, what can you say? This is a burial and janaza. All these are religious things. But at the same time, it was an event with huge political significance. The whole nation was speaking, giving a political message. So will you call it religious or political? Now there lies the real truth. The real truth is that in Islamic civilization, things are integrated. There is no compartmentalization. Things are integrated because God's message, the divine message, relates to the life, not to the parts of life. So this is the greatest legacy Imam Khamenei is leaving behind, and this continues. That Iran is showing a new kind of politics. I mean, this is different from when you speak about China overtaking America in economic growth, or sometimes some people say global South and America. It is different from that, because all of them, be it China, be it Russia, they subscribe to the same philosophy of life as Western civilization. There's no difference. It's only the Islamic Revolution, the Islamic Iran, which gives a new civilizational view. And if you see the sermons, if you see the addresses of Imam Khamenei, you will see he has been repeatedly saying about new civilization, because it is a new civilization. It's not simply a new system of government. It's a full new civilization where there are new values, and where I have been speaking on some other channels also. I have been emphasizing on this point that we are on the threshold of a new civilization, and every new civilization comes with a new epistemology. Epistemology means the new civilization will define what is success. Imam Khamenei being killed, it is success. If Imam Khamenei had fled, if he had fled to Moscow and saved himself, that's not success. That may be politically clever, but that's not success. But the new civilization defines what is success, what is successful life, what is dignity. We are getting new meanings of these words, which so far it was all materialistic, everything money related, everything money defined. So this, we must understand, we are on the threshold of this civilization. Imam Khamenei played a big, vital role in it. Now, inshallah, it will be Imam Reza Khamenei. Iran is in the leading position. He is leading this civilizational change, and all of the justice-loving people in the world, not only Muslims, all of them, they are really behind it. They see a difference. You could see in Iran also, all the Jews and Christians, they were equally participating in the procession. They were equally feeling what has happened. So this is how it goes.
Mr. Andrabi, in your opinion, what were the biggest challenges that Martyr Ayatollah Khamenei faced after the passing of Imam Khomeini? That was, of course, a very critical period in Iran's modern history. How did he overcome those challenges during that time?
I think the biggest challenge, if you had to sum it up, was Imam Khomeini left a baby. Imam Khamenei had to ensure that the baby grows into an adult, and that's what happened. When Imam Khomeini left, the Islamic Republic was a baby. You can see at the time of the Iran-Iraq war, the imposed war by Saddam Hussein, you can see at that time the whole world was supporting Saddam. Iran had not built up alliances and all this. But during Imam Khamenei's time, a lot of such things happened. Alliances were built up, and of course you don't get lifelong friends, or you don't have friends who agree on everything. For example, China and Iran do not agree on everything, but they have strategic alliances. In the era of Imam Khamenei, strategic alliances were built, and also the Islamic revolutionary movements outside Iran, there were some networking also took place. So these were the main things. But as the late President Ibrahim Raisi once said, he said that we can't leave the economic future of people of Iran, we can't leave it at the mercy of lifting of sanctions, because lifting of sanctions is the will of America or West when they will lift sanctions. We can't tell people that you will be good, you will be okay, you will be better, just wait for lifting of sanctions. We have to, lifting of sanctions is one thing, and making the economic progress and building better economy in Iran is another thing, and we should address to it. And Imam Khamenei was very much focused on that irrespective of our foreign and international things, we should be self-reliant, and we should do things which will bring some prosperity and peace to the people, regardless of these sanctions and all this. So I told you the gist is this, that from a baby to the adult, the Iran's journey, it was led by Imam Khamenei.
Farzana, what challenges and opportunities lie ahead after the passing of Ayatollah Khamenei?
Of course, we know that after the passing of the founder of the Islamic Republic, Imam Khomeini, the leader faced lots of challenges inside the country, from natural disasters to, of course, facing and having to work with different governments with different ideas, and of course different regional challenges and international complications. And under his leadership, Iran managed to pass through all those complications and difficulties and challenges. A natural disaster like the Bam earthquake, which happened, I think, in the early 1990s inside the country. And of course, different governments, as I just mentioned, with different, perspectives and ideas. He would work with all of them. Of course, because he was very, he valued, let's say, the people's opinion, and of course the people's votes, and how much he valued democracy. And there was a time that different governments may even oppose him, but he would stay calm and try to work with them, even cooperate, even helping them, and not allowing anyone to say anything disrespectful to those governments, because, as I just mentioned, he valued the people's vote and the democracy so much. And of course the regional issues, and of course I also have to mention that after he became the leader, Iran before that was facing the 8 years of imposed war, and we know that how it was very hard to reconstruct the country, and under his leadership, hundreds of bridges and infrastructure, hospitals, and these kind of things were instructed inside the country, and how country was very, very strongly developed when it comes to the infrastructure. And of course the regional difficulties and challenges, including the U.S. invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan, and of course what happened in Syria and Iraq with the terrorism of Daesh, and how he, as a very wise and very, let's say, strategic leader that knew everything, that was very wise because he would read a lot. He would, he was an expert himself in politics, in diplomacy, in international affairs, and how he managed to make and keep the country safe and secure from all those challenges, and how he would, try to have its very close, the country's close ties, keep the close ties with the regional countries, specifically with Iraq, and of course previously with Syria, and of course with Lebanon, and how the resistance, front that he defended and he valued a lot, helped Iran to be away from any war or aggression for years. Under his leadership, Iran didn't face any wars or any major security challenges because of his wise leadership, and of course international issues, and the challenges that I think that the country actually were facing, of course, were very major ones. And because of his he wasn't very complete, let's say, character. He had a very complete character, and he had a character of all aspects. He was a political figure. He was a religious leader. He was a military commander, and even when facing different ideas from different experts, he could actually assess all those ideas and choose the best ones, because he also had his own expertise. He knew things, but of course at the same time trying not to interfere in every single issues of the country, because of course different parts and different sectors of the country had their own responsibility, and he didn't want to act like a dictator, as the Western propaganda are trying to portray him. He was a leader. He would lead the country. He would tell the people what is good and what is right and what is wrong, and of course he would guide the officials, tell them that you should do this, you should do that, but he would never dictate his ideas. And we see that in those sectors that he had the responsibility to interfere and had direct actually impact on those areas. We see how Iran has basically become very powerful in those areas, namely in military capability and in scientific matters, but in other parts that he didn't have that much interference, or in other parts that maybe the governments would not listen to his guidance. Iran is a little bit weak in those parts, and I think that if every single people would listen to every single his speeches or advices, it would be something very much better. And I think now the Iranian nation are even very more ready to continue his path to as they are saying that how they are ready and respect the legacy that he has basically left behind, and how as a great leader he managed to lead the country despite all the challenges, despite all the difficulties and complications, and at the end sacrifice his life for the reputation of Iran and for the strength and for the power of Iran. And this is exactly what people are saying, how they are appreciating the leader's efforts. His tireless fight and efforts to make the country great, make the country powerful, and how we see that different people from all walks of life, from different generations, young and old, from different backgrounds, are now participating. The funeral procession is a very great testament to how people see that what a great leader they have lost, and of course some of them would express their regret of why they didn't know him sooner, and they wish they they had known him sooner to follow his path sooner.
Back to London now, Mr. Andrabi. Why did Ayatollah Khamenei place such strong emphasis on the issue of self-reliance and national capabilities, and how did this vision actually and tangibly contribute to building a stronger and more independent Iran?
Yes, this self-reliance is usually, people talk about it. The leaders of other countries also talk about it, but that is more in an exclusivist sense. But here it was different, and here we must understand that there is what Imam Khamenei himself, he just a couple of months back, he had said it. Not a couple of months. He said it about I think last year, not too far, but he said about US and Iran equation. He said that there's an inherent incompatibility there, because US does not view, it cannot engage with other countries as equals. It regards others as subservient, and that cannot happen with Iran. We can't be subservient.